Today, we're diving deep into some truly wild relationship sagas, specifically about open relationships. I've got a feeling these won't end well, so let's jump right into the first story. First up, a 28-year-old woman wanted an open relationship. I, a 29-year-old man, ended things, and now she's completely lost it. My girlfriend and I had been together since January of 2011. I always felt proud that we could resolve disagreements without major arguments. We were both quite mature, and any issues we faced in our relationship were always handled with care. Now, for the current dilemma. My girlfriend's workplace is mostly women, with just one male colleague. This guy is a real charmer, a true ladies' man. And my girlfriend? She's clearly smitten with him. I understand. We've been together for a long time, and a fleeting desire for something new isn't inherently bad. However, she started pushing the boundaries further. She began asking about the possibility of a threesome with me, or even her sleeping with another man. She increasingly brought up things we should experience before settling down and becoming boring old people. Then she started complimenting my physique, saying I looked much better now than when we first met, and that this was my chance to get more action. This is when she really began to advocate for an open relationship. At that point, I realized her interest in this other guy was much more serious. I decided she wasn't someone I needed in my life. I had my own reservations about our relationship, and this felt like an opportunity to find someone new who didn't have those same flaws. So, I simply told her this wasn't what I wanted anymore, and that we should move on. I don't think it truly registered until the next day when I removed her from my social media. That's when she completely unraveled. She forced her way into my apartment while my roommates were there and just sat crying. She even bought me several expensive shirts, over $300 each, as a display of her affection. In general, she's been acting erratically, even taking sick leave from work. I have no desire to reconcile with her. I know many might criticize me for ending a long-term relationship, but honestly, while I cared for her, her talk about longing for another man extinguished my feelings. I'm at a point where I'm content with my own life. I know my worth and don't need to convince anyone to stay. The real problem now is her behavior. She's genuinely alarming everyone. What truly concerns me is that she knows the passwords to many of my crucial accounts, as I tend to use the same three for everything. I've started changing them, but I'm worried she could still cause trouble. There's an update after I first posted. I went all out trying to recall every important account and successfully changed the passwords. So, at least I now have a collection of unique passwords. Things took a different turn with my ex-girlfriend. I contacted her sister to see if she could return the shirts my ex had bought me. It turns out the company doesn't allow returns. Since the shirts were nice, I decided to keep them and just gave her sister the money to pass on. During our conversation, her sister spoke about the relationship. She wanted me to know that my girlfriend was devoted to me in every way, that she saw me as the man she'd have children and grow old with, and that the guy from work meant nothing. I told her I understood, but after everything, my perception of her had changed and my attraction and love had vanished. And just like that, her sister also turned on me, calling me a freaking pig who wasted her sister's prime years and never intended to commit to marriage. After that, I decided to cut off all contact with my ex, her family, and her friends. I was constantly bombarded with messages. My ex even showed up at my apartment to ensure I was alive. One evening, I was at my favorite bar with two male friends, chatting with a girl, when suddenly, out of nowhere, my ex and her friends appeared. She started crying, claiming I was cheating and that we weren't officially broken up. Her friends kept urging me to give her another chance, making the whole situation incredibly awkward. She offered to try the open thing only if I wanted, saying I could sleep with her friends, have threesomes, and even pointed out a friend who always found me attractive. I told her it was a lot to process and I needed time to think. I just said that to escape the situation. I later discovered she knew where I was because one of my friends had invited her friend, thinking he was interested in her. So that's the story. The biggest issue with our breakup was our long history together, which complicated our shared friend group. I'm still unsure how to deal with her continued presence in my life. Next up, a girlfriend is torn between an open relationship and being single. My girlfriend, 30, and I, 35, have been together for over 5 years, living together for most of that time. A couple of months ago, she started a new job that's left her physically and emotionally exhausted. She's had very little time for me because she needs alone time to decompress after work. It's unfortunate but understandable. as I also value my solitude. I'm very accommodating of her needs, but her work schedule isn't temporary. It could continue indefinitely. Whenever I bring up wanting more time together, she gets frustrated seeing it as another burden. Eventually, she admitted her life felt overwhelming and she couldn't meet my needs. It's a bummer, but I get it. It's a new job she's passionate about, and she's always been prone to anxiety. A few days ago, we discussed our relationship, and she mentioned being curious about a polyamorous arrangement with me. This came after a coworker told her that she and her boyfriend were having similar issues and decided to try polyamory. I was stunned. My immediate thought was that she was already seeing someone or had someone in mind. I asked, and she denied it, but said she missed the freedom to act on impulses without the responsibilities and boundaries of a monogamous relationship. I told her I couldn't predict my future feelings, but I was definitely not comfortable with an open relationship right now. The conversation ultimately came down to me saying she couldn't have both me and the freedom to act on every impulse without considering my feelings. She responded by saying she's now considering being single because she might not be in a good state for a committed relationship. At first glance, it seems our relationship is clearly over, but there's more to the story. Early in our relationship, I was thriving, confident, optimistic, and succeeding in all my endeavors, while she struggled with self-love, inadequacy, and insecurity. She was also fun and hardworking. I loved her deeply and constantly tried to assure her of her worth, though I'm not sure how much my advice helped. Eventually, we started bickering over issues like jealousy. Any casual mention of another woman, even a coworker, would upset her. It reached a point where I told her her insecurity made her less attractive, as I was drawn to confidence. That didn't go over well. After much thought, I began to question my own fulfillment in the relationship and, at one point, asked her how she'd feel about trying an open relationship. That didn't go over well either. She seemed uninterested. I valued our connection far more than any brief sexual escapade, so I dropped the subject and focused more on our relationship. There was some sexual frustration, and I'm sure she felt even more insecure. Upon reflection, I realized I felt more fulfilled working on our relationship than trying to see how many women I could sleep with. There were certainly opportunities for that, along with a lot of sexual tension at work, but my thoughts always returned to her and how nothing made me happier than knowing I brought her joy. Time passed, and we had our ups and downs, but the love was always present, even during the most stressful times, and things never escalated dramatically. Then I got very ill. It started as a nasty acute infection and transitioned into something chronic and debilitating almost overnight. I went from being an athlete, outgoing, social, compassionate, and excelling at work, to needing to quit my job and all forms of exercise. My sport was my main passion. I couldn't see friends and could barely walk a block to the grocery store. I fell into a deep depression. She provided emotional support and helped me immensely just by being there. I'll always be grateful for that. But her kindness couldn't alleviate my struggle with my health. I grew distant and withdrawn. Gradually, I started to become more functional and could return to work, though I was still struggling and in constant pain. This was hard on her too. Not only was she watching me suffer without being able to help, but her needs weren't being met, and I felt guilty about it. Though my physical health was improving, my depression lingered, putting a strain on our relationship. I wanted to be alone more often. I felt I couldn't be a good partner or even enjoy my own life anymore. I felt lost. We still had fun, but less frequently, and we argued more. The love was still there, but it felt strained and unclear. However, a strong foundation remained. We could always depend on each other for help. We still trusted and loved each other, but our individual struggles were seeping into our shared life. I felt too down to be intimate with anyone and respected her too much to fake the closeness she desired. So, we spent more time apart. I continually assured her that my coping mechanisms and subsequent issues had nothing to do with her, that I still loved her and didn't want to be with anyone else, but I needed time to recover. A chronic physical illness doesn't care about your relationship status. I just hoped I'd recover sooner rather than later and get back to the happiness we once shared. My health continued to slowly improve, and I began to re-engage with the world, reflecting on everything I'd experienced and what I wanted to experience next. I discovered a new appreciation for my health, the people and opportunities in my life. Loss often inspires gratitude. I started exercising more, exploring a new career, and taking back control of my life. I also began reaching out to more people, wanting to reconnect and let them know how much they meant to me. Unfortunately, that gesture might have been a bit too late for my girlfriend. Over time, she learned to cope with my lack of intimacy by suppressing her need for affection. She began to focus more on other things, like her work, and no longer looked at me with the pure, excited love she once did. I missed the way she used to look at me. I feared I had spoiled things because I was so unavailable, and I felt extremely guilty. I missed seeing her happy. I missed making her happy. My renewed zest for life and efforts to rekindle my affection really started taking shape about 2 months ago, though it had been building for a while. My girlfriend and I were still very close, spending time together daily and laughing. We started having sex again, and it was good sex, unlike when I was sick. I was feeling increasingly optimistic about the future. Also, about 2 months ago, my girlfriend left a job she hated for a new one with much more responsibility, immense pressure, and long weekly hours. I began to worry about her health and sanity. This brings us to the beginning of this post and the present day. We've essentially swapped personality roles. She now seems emotionally detached and unavailable, at least with me, while I've become emotionally needy and loving. Now, my dilemma, and the reason for this post, is how to proceed with this relationship as it stands, and also depending on what she decides. She mentioned wanting to remain friends, even if she chooses to be single and see other people. On one hand, she's my best friend, and it's painful to imagine her not being in my life. On the other hand, knowing she wants intimacy with others but not with me would also be painful. Every time I'd see her, I imagine it would remind me that the connection that was once unique and special to us, she now desires with someone else. It's a catch-22. I don't think she realizes that our friendship is elevated by our intimacy, and our intimacy is heightened by our friendship. They are codependent. One without the other wouldn't carry the same weight or meaning, and might even feel awkward and forced. It seems she wants to have her cake and eat it too, and I'm not sure that's possible. I think a significant part of this change in her is turning 30 next month, leaving her 20s behind, which has her contemplating getting older. She's also boosting her confidence by excelling in a demanding career role, and after a lifetime of self-esteem issues, her ego must be quite inflated. More or less, I believe she's riding an ego high while worried about wasting her youth, so the thought of settling into a monogamous relationship frightens her. It seems like a no-brainer that the relationship is over, right? Well, the thing that still gives me a glimmer of hope that things might eventually work out with the woman I deeply love is my ability to relate to her situation. Not long before I met her over 5 years ago, I went through a similar phase. I spent most of my life with massive insecurity, then built courage and confidence, and then fully explored everything I had been too scared to embrace before. I found I attracted many women with my newfound confidence, and I ran with it. So, I understand where she's coming from and why she wants to explore. But when I went through this, I was single and didn't have to end a relationship to pursue my curiosities. I learned from trying to enjoy meaningless sex with different people that I eventually felt empty and bored after a short time. I then realized the emotional connection made sex and friendship more interesting and intense. I wonder if she would come to a similar conclusion or take a different path. It's also hard to judge her for suggesting a polyamorous relationship since, at one point, I was the one who suggested it, while she was content with monogamy, empathy. So now, during this time apart, I'm considering what I'm willing to do to maintain a healthy relationship with her, depending on what she decides. We've both been open to polyamory in the past at different times, and both open to monogamy at the same and different times. Will I one day be open to the idea of polyamory again? It seems like a hard no right now, so probably not, but who knows? Will she change her mind like I did and realize how rare our connection is, has been, and could still be, and be open to embracing a monogamous relationship again? That's the best case scenario for me, but it seems like a long shot. I'm having a really hard time predicting how this will all turn out. During our last conversation yesterday, I proposed a compromise. We try to re-establish a strong foundation for our relationship, just the two of us. Then, if she still has that urge, we could bring in a girl for a threesome. She's bisexual. If she's still not satisfied, she can have experiences with girls on her own. The final step, the only one I have a major issue with, would be her having experiences with other guys on her own. If at any point one of us becomes too uncomfortable and feels it's not working, at least we can say we tried. Otherwise, the other options are splitting up and staying friends. splitting up and cutting all contact, committing to a monogamous relationship, or committing to a polyamorous relationship. To make things more complicated, we share a one-bedroom apartment with two pets we both adore and lovingly call our children. Neither of us is in a financial position to move out. So yes, I'm pretty stressed out, sad, and confused. I'm a fool in love with a broken heart. I can barely eat or sleep. I've become utterly consumed by the pain of potentially losing someone I love more than anyone or anything. I'm also still trying to recover my health, which the stress isn't helping, and I lost my job due to the pandemic. Of course, the person I would normally turn to first in a crisis is the very same person who doesn't seem to want to be near me anymore, or at least for the time being. My best friend, lover, partner in crime, favorite person on this planet might not want to be those things anymore. I went from climbing out of a personal hell after years of suffering to finally realizing what mattered and how to embrace it, feeling excited about the future, to the present situation feeling like I lost almost everything I hold dear overnight. I feel overwhelmed. I know complaining isn't helpful, and things could be worse, so I'm grateful, but sometimes it just feels good to vent. All I can think to do now is focus on bettering myself, my health, and finding a new job, while also trying to figure out what to do about our relationship, depending on what she says when she decides what she wants, and I have no idea when that will be. And also, how to deal with our living situation if things become emotionally intense. The stress is eating me alive. I badly want to talk to her about thoughts I've had, such as how I was once curious about seeing other people too, but was very relieved I didn't go through with it because I realized it would ruin the rare and amazing connection I had with her. I don't want her to potentially destroy an amazing relationship for something easy to find. She's a beautiful girl. She'd have no trouble finding casual sex if she wanted to. She might regret it later, but by then the damage would already be done, and it would be too late. She's even expressed that very scenario as one of the things that scares her about ending our relationship. She fears throwing away a meaningful 5-year partnership with a person she's told me she never knew she could love so much and has never loved anyone more, in exchange for the sense of freedom that comes with pursuing casual sex. I want to remind her about all the great times we've had so she doesn't just focus on the bad. Meanwhile, she's spending 12 hours a day with men and women she feels sexual tension with and works alongside the girl who originally planted the idea of an open relationship in her head. The odds are certainly against me. So, should I make an effort to share my thoughts? Should I keep my distance and just hope for the best? The giving her space arrangement is strange and confusing. She said she needs space to organize her thoughts alone and to see if she misses me. But how much can she test if she misses me when we share a small apartment and physically see each other every day? She also says it doesn't have to be a super strict no talking or eye contact situation, just giving her the choice of what we do or don't do, essentially putting her needs ahead of my own. Yesterday, I held her while she cried. Last night before bed, we hugged and said we loved each other after she offered to trim my hair. This whole situation is so bizarre and confusing. I love this girl more than I thought possible, and I've had many other girlfriends, some long-term. I will do almost anything to make it work and keep her in my life, but I still have limits and self-respect. So, this situation is very perplexing. She almost died in my arms one night, and I had to save her life. She saved my life by being by my side when I was at my lowest points. We've been through a lot together. I don't want to lose her.